It's Debatable with Mark Gray here on MLBbro.com.
Thanks for checking in. This is Debatable. I'm the MLB OG, Mark Gray. He is Manny Ramirez Brown. Hey, and as baseball fans, we offer up our condolences to Dodger Nation and the Scully family on the passing of our favorite broadcaster. I think it would be safe to say the voice of baseball for our generation. Vince Scully, you will be missed, my friend. Rest in paradise. Who do you think of the MLB bros that were traded will have the biggest impact down the stretch?
So I'm going to go with a little bit of a unique take on this. My biggest MLB bro at the trade deadline that made the biggest impact is an MLB bro that didn't get traded, and that's Cedric Mullins. Listen, the Orioles, for whatever reason, decide to kind of sell, not buy, but not totally sell. It's weird. So they got rid of their closer, got rid of Trey Mancini, who was the emotional leader and face of that franchise. But retaining Cedric Mullins, I can't understate, is an important deal for them. He's a tremendous player. Obviously, we've all talked about him before as being one of the best underrated, unknown players in baseball. And now he's with the Orioles for the foreseeable future, at least one would think, for the foreseeable future. And it keeps them in play for this year, right? That they after trading Mancini, the Orioles needed still that bat, that presence in the lineup, that ability to create runs like Cedric Mullins has. And I think not trading him was a big deal for them. I think keeping him around, I still think it gives the Orioles fan at least a little bit of hope that's like, okay, we're not happy that we traded Mancini, but at least we kept Cedric Mullins. We're still in the wild card hunt. We're still there. I think that was a huge move for the Orioles not trading Cedric Mullins, because it was very easy for them to get the trade to trade him.
I'd pump the brakes that all is doom and gloom in Baltimore's postseason run. Remember, there's still only 2 games out. They're a hot team right now, and they can hit the baseball. The problem is they weakened their bullpen with the moves at the trade deadline for this year, but down the line, if the prospects work out, good move. So I like your thought. However, if I'm going to talk about an impact player that's changing the addresses, it's got to be Josh Bell. I mean, I'm salivating at the thought of the Padres right now becoming the sexiest team in the league. I mean, with all due respect, you got Fernando Tatis, who we haven't seen this year yet, and he's just going to be an addition. So that's a deadline move. You start talking about what they already have. You've got Manny Machado, thunderous bat at the top of the lineup. So you look at where Josh Bell is going to fit in. I just really think that the Padres have become a real player in the National League. But if you look around the National League right now, what we've seen is that the deadline has strengthened some teams. National League playoffs are wide open. I mean, it's really on right now.
Oh yeah, the Padres have definitely put themselves in the conversation to come out of the National League. I love the Josh Bell move. Obviously, I didn't go with that one. You did, only because obviously the big meal in the course of the dinner is the Juan Soto acquisition. But yeah, Josh Bell helps them immensely.
We can look back with fond reverence on trade deadline deals from days gone by. What MLB bro had the greatest impact historically at the trade deadline?
I got to go with the crime dog himself, Fred McGriff, man. That big trade deadline acquisition the Braves made in 1993 to bring him on board, to bring him to a team that was 10 games out at the time. That was in a huge pennant race, one of the last classic pennant races of old time baseball. The Giants and the Braves in 93, 103 wins, 104 wins, I believe. You know, the Giants missed the playoffs by 1 game at 103. Think about that, winning 103 games and missing out on the playoffs. But the last real great pennant race of the old classic pennant races that you think about and you write books about. The OG era, yeah, before divisional play or before the 3 divisions and the wild card. I thought. Listen, you look at what Fred McGriff did for that team, man. He gave them a significant run-producing middle of the order threat in that lineup at the time when they desperately needed it. A professional bat, a guy that could beat you in so many different ways. I think Fred McGriff was just criminally underrated, and he really sparked the Braves that year. Remember, they were 10 games out. They made up the deficit. They won 104 games. I know they lost in the NLCS to the Phillies, but he was a big component in 93 and ended up being a big component when they eventually won it in 95. So I think Fred McGriff might be quietly, because that's typical with Fred McGriff, right? He's quietly had a great career, should be a Hall of Famer, and quietly had a great impact on that Braves team. So I go with Fred McGriff.
But he was never quiet about those batting practice videos that was endorsed by if you remember that back in the day. Yep. But you're right. I happened to be covering the Braves at the time and was at the game for the fire and watched the press box burn from the floor of the old Fulton County Stadium, God bless its soul. So I remember that like it was yesterday. But I'm going to say it was CC Sabathia from 2008. I mean, he had done everything that you could do in Cleveland at that time. So what happens? He goes to Milwaukee. He helps to solidify pitching staff. They make their run. They get to, I mean, it wasn't a long run in the playoffs. They got at least to the division series, and they came up just a little short. But he was nails down the stretch. And I think, you know, we talking about somebody who had like 156 innings and was like just going on guts and toughness. And I think that really permeated the locker room, much like McGriff did, to your point. So when I put everything into the mix, not only about what you do statistically, but the presence that you have, I think as far as MLB bros are concerned, I'd land with CC Sabathia in 2008. And I will say this, speaking of the great state of Ohio, Tommy Pham is now a member of the Boston Red Sox, which only adds more fuel to the fire between the Red Sox and the Yankees. My thing is this. Hey, look, did you sign him for what he's going to bring to you offensively in the middle of the lineup, defensively, what he does in the outfield, or the ability to fight when the brawl starts and the bench is clear, because you know it's bound to happen with those two teams battling for the East.
Hey, listen, he adds a little punch to that lineup, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, he's figuratively the punchline of the first half of the season, literally. Anyway, that's my boy Manny Ramirez Brown. It's your boy, the MLB OG, Mark Gray. Thanks for hanging out. That's how we roll on Debatable, y'all. We're back in here again next week to give it to you straight, no chaser. Deuces up from the DMV.
R.I.P. Vince Scully.
MLBbro.com, covering black and brown major league.